Korach, and Korach took ben Yitzhar ben Kahas ben Levi. Korach, who was the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kahas, the son of Levi. The Dasan of Aviram b'nei Eliyav, and Dasan and Aviram, the sons of Eliyav, Ba'oin ben Pelas, and Oin ben Pelas b'nei Reuven, the sons of Reuven. So if we just look at this pasuk by itself, it reads, Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kahas, the son of Levi, took, and Dasan and Aviram, and Oin ben Pelas, which will be translated as all three took. What did they take? Doesn't say. Then the pasuk says, "Vayokumu lifnei Moshe," and they stood, or they arose before Moshe. Va'anoshim b'nei Yisrael, and men of the Jewish people, 250. The Siyei Eda, leaders of the assembly, Kriyei Moyed, those who were called together at designated times. Anshe Shem, men of distinction. Okay, so Pasuk Bey says that they arose, referring to the people mentioned in the previous Pasuk, that they stood before Moshe and 250 men. Pasuk Gimel, Vayikalu al Moshe v'al Aaron, and they assembled against Moshe and Aaron, Vayimur lehem, they said to them, Rav lochem, you have taken too much. The entire assembly are all holy. Hashem, God is in their midst. Why do you lift yourselves over the congregation of Hashem? So Pasuk Bey said, and they arose before Moshe. And Pasuk Gimel says, and they assembled against Moshe. So what does arising mean? What does assembling mean? What are these two separate things? So I'm going to share with you the Sfor News explanation. It's an interesting explanation. And he says that the beginning of Pasuk Aleph, when it says, and Korach took, you've got to read the Pasuk as Korach and Dasan and Aviram and Oin ben Pelas took. Who did they take? Now if you look at Pasuk Beis, you've got to kind of make a little bit of a pause, okay? Or actually, you have to skip the next couple of words, where it says, "Vayokumu lifnei Moshe," and they arose before Moshe, "Vanosh b'nei Yisrael," and people from the children of Israel. Skip those few words and go to Chamishim Masayim, 250. So the way to read it is, and Korach and Dasan and Aviram and Oin ben Pelas took 250 Nesiei Eda, princes of the assembly, etc. Okay, so the Vayikach of Korach, Dasan, Aviram, and Oin, what did they take? They took the 250 princes. When Pasuk Beis begins, Vayakumu, and they arose, the Vayakumu and they arose are going on these 250 men. And they wanted them to basically stand before Moshe. Stand before Moshe and people of from the Bnei Yisrael. These 250 people were taken by Korach, Dasan, and Aviram, and Oin ben Pelas, and they were told to stand before Moshe and Jewish people. There are Jewish people who would be by Moshe when these 250 men are to come and assemble by Moshe. Now, what's going on here? What's Moshe doing? What are these other people doing that now 250 men are joining up with them? The answer is, Moshe judges, Moshe takes requests, people come before Moshe. So now it is the time of day where Moshe is receiving people. So that's the before Moshe and people of Bnei Yisrael. You've got Moshe with people of Bnei Yisrael that are coming to be judged, to make the requests of Moshe. The 250 men now, by directive of Korach, are now by Kumu. They are standing before Moshe. They're just kind of gathering around. They're not doing anything yet. They're gathering around, observing, which is not necessarily out of place, but all of a sudden they're gathering around. And then what happens? Vayikohalu al Moshe v'al Aaron. Then Dasan and Aviram come, and they assemble against Moshe, and they start voicing their complaints. The reason everything is set up this way is because they actually want to voice their complaints to Moshe in front of as many people as possible. They don't want to just do it to Moshe privately. They want to do it in front of a number of people so that their message gets around. So even though, according to the Sephorno, it's a very interesting way of reading the Pesukim, because you've got a lot of parts of the pasuk kind of mixed up. But that's, if I understand the Sephorno correctly, that's what Sephorno was learning. The Sephorno is saying the setup here is that Korach, Dasan, Aviram, and On now are taking the 250 men, telling them to stand before Moshe, and then all together they're going to assemble against Moshe. And again, he wanted these 250 people assembled beforehand, so that when Dasan and Aviram come and make their complaints, it won't just be them, but it'll be together with this whole gathering of 250 men that have joined up with them. And they want this happening when Moshe is together with others. Those others are now coming before Moshe to get judged, to make their requests. They want this all to happen in front of Moshe and others, so that their message gets spread by all the other people that are present. So that's how the Sephorno learns this part of these Pesukim. Now, let's take a look now at Rashi. Rashi on, again, page 820 on the right column, where Rashi begins the words V'dasan va'aviram, and Dasan and Aviram. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines from the bottom of that first column of Rashi. V'dasan va'aviram, B'shvil sheyashevet Reuven shari b'chaniyasam teimana, shochem l'kas ubana v'achayim teimana, nishtatvu im karach machlakusei. Dasan and Aviram's involvement, Rashi says, came because the way the Jewish people were encamped around the Mishkan, you basically had the family of Kahas, which was the family that, no, sorry, you had, right, being that they had, the tribe of Reuben was encamped to the south, neighbors to Kahas, who also encamped south of the Mishkan. They joined up with Korach and his whole argument, woe to the evil and woe to his neighbor. Dasan and Aviram's involvement came because they were neighbors to Korach, and therefore Korach influenced him to join his rebellion. Then Rashi continues, why did Korach pick a fight with Moshe? The answer is Niskane on the Siyusa Shal Elitzaphan ben Uziel. It all started because he became jealous of his cousin Elitzaphan, the son of Uziel, that Moshe appointed him as the leader of the family of Kahas, of that part of the tribe of Levi. Korach felt that basically if Moshe and Aaron, who were sons of the eldest son of Kahas, if they got the two highest positions, then the eldest of the next son, which is Yitzhar, Korach's father, Korach now should get the next position, which should have been prince of the tribe of Levi. Being that he didn't get it, he became jealous of that. Not only did he decide to challenge Moshe regarding that, he even challenged Moshe on the fact that Aaron was appointed the Kohen Gadol instead of him. Okay? So, again, there's a whole discussion exactly about Korach's entire motive. Many commentaries say that Korach really desired to be close to the Rebbeinu Shalom. He wanted the experience, the closest Hashem of a Kohen Gadol, but deep down, what had motivated him and what tainted his whole perspective here was the jealousy that began by not being appointed as the prince of the family of Kahas, and that influenced his thinking, and he therefore decided to challenge Moshe not only on the fact he wasn't appointed as the prince of the family of Kahas, but that he really should have been the Kohen Gadol instead of Aaron. Now, but according to Rashi, it comes out that Rashi is saying that Dasan and Aviram, their involvement was because of what? Because they were his neighbors. According to Rashi, there is no real problem that Dasan and Aviram have with Moshe. Basically, Korach convinces them to join up with him. Korach has a problem. He's challenging Moshe's authority, and he convinces others to join his rebellion. The 250 men mentioned are also, Rashi learns, are from the tribe of Reuben. So again, they're neighbors. They're all in the same vicinity as Korach and his family, and they all get pulled in. They're all getting pulled in and supporting Korach. But according to Rashi makes no mention of anything that any kind of personal problem that they have. They're just neighbors of Korach, and they join to support him. The other Mefarshim, the other commentaries learn differently. And I want to share with you the Ibn Ezra's approach and the Ramban's approach. Now, the Ibn Ezra begins, very interestingly, telling us chronologically, when did the story of Korach take place? If I were to ask you, when did this rebellion of Korach take place? You'd go ahead and you'd look and you'd say, well, last week was Parsha Shlach. Last week started the Meraglim. So after the Meraglim comes Korach. So Ibn Ezra says no. Ibn Ezra says no. Ibn Ezra says that when did this whole story of Korach begin? Zeh hadavar haya b'midbar Sinai. The rebellion of Korach was still in the Sinai desert. Basically, when we read in Parashas, when we read how the firstborn were, their rights as the firstborn, meaning their rights in serving in the Mishkan, were taken away and given to the tribe of Levi. The tribe of Levi replaced the Bechirim. That is when this whole episode took place. At that point when the Leviim replaced the firstborn, this is when Korach's rebellion began. And Ibn Ezra goes through all the different groups of the Jewish people and what their problem was. Because according to Ibn Ezra, and Ramban will say that also, well, not exactly the same way, but according to Ibn Ezra, you've really got Korach, you've got Dasan and Aviram, you've got the 250 men, you got the rest of the Jewish people. So Ibn Ezra says each one had their problem. Ki chashvu Yisrael shemoisha Adonenu asa midayit lo says kadula le'achav gam levnei kahashem krevim elav u'lechol b'nei levi shem mishpachtei. The Jewish people thought that Moshe Rabbeinu was taking away the firstborn rights from the firstborn and give it to the tribe of Levi because of nepotism. It was all about gifting, was all about benefiting his tribe. The firstborn, which were the firstborn of all the Jewish people, the firstborn were the most prestigious of the people that were held in very high esteem, and therefore the fact that all their firstborn had lost their rights, which they originally had, because the Torah tells us that those who did bring sacrifices at Mount Sinai before the Torah was given were the Bechirim, they were the firstborn. Those are the ones who did the service. There was a point where they actually did Karbanis, they did bring sacrifices. There was a point. But it was taken away from them, given to the Leviim. So the Ibn Ezra says that the Jewish people, their problem in this whole episode was, why did they join up with Korach? Why did they join to challenge Moshe? Because they felt that Moshe was showing favoritism to his tribe by taking away from the firstborn their rights and giving it to the tribe of Levi. Now, Leviim, but now we've got other Leviim, right? We've got Korach. Korach's a Levi too. What's his problem? The Leviim Kashur Alav, the Leviim now basically engaged Moshe, but were Hayosem Nesunim La'aron Ulabanav. You know what bothered them? Bothered them was the fact that they were given to serve Aaron and his sons. That's open the Torah. Aaron and his sons were the Kohanim, and the tribe of Levi was there to serve Aaron and his sons. That's Korach. He's saying Korach didn't appreciate that. Korach was bothered by the fact that basically he and his tribe were now turned into subjects, so to speak, of the Kohanim. The Kasha Dasan Vaviram, and why were Dasan and Aviram involved? Ba'avur Sheheser Abachara Me Reuven Aviem V'nitna Yosef. They had a problem with the fact that they're from the tribe of Reuven. Reuven's the firstborn. And the firstborn, but Reuven doesn't have the firstborn rights. Who has the firstborn rights amongst the tribes? Who gets a double portion of land? Yosef.
Levi.
Not Levi.
No Levi.
Levi doesn't get any portion of the land, specifically. It's Yosef, Menashe and Ephraim. Ulai chashtu b'avor Yoshua Mesharsai. According to Ibn Ezra, Dasan and Aviram are challenging the fact that hey, we're from Reuven. Why isn't Reuven getting the firstborn rights amongst the tribes? Why is Yosef getting it? Perhaps they thought that Moshe was favoring his student, Yoshua. It was a favor to his student. So they doubted, they challenged Moshe, they doubted Moshe regarding that. So according to Ibn Ezra, Dasan and Aviram have a very specific issue here. Their issue, again, is not them specifically as much as their whole tribe. Reuben is the firstborn of Yaakov. He should have the firstborn rights. Now, if you look in Chumash, who took away the firstborn rights from Reuben and gave it to Yosef? Yaakov did it. In the blessings before he died, he took it away from Reuben and gave it to Yosef. So it was Yaakov who did it. But again, the Jewish people are saying Moshe, you're saying it was Yaakov, but it really wasn't. This is something you're making up to favor Yeshua. Okay, so now we know what Dasan Aviram's problem is. What about the 250 men? What was their problem? Hayu b'chayrim. They were all firstborn. And they were the ones who brought the burnt offerings before, until this point. Or they were who brought the burnt offerings by Har Sinai before the Mishkan. And therefore, at the end, Moshe told them, okay, take the fire pans, do an avodah, do a service. So according to the Ibn Ezra, you've got 4 groups, each one with their own specific problem, with the primary focus being something revolving around the Bechorah, around the firstborn. The Jewish people have a problem that the Leviim took over to replace the Bechorim. When it comes to Korach himself, Ibn Ezra either says that his problem was the fact that they were basically subjected to minister to serve the Kohanim, or maybe did I skip that? Yeah, I actually skipped that other thing. Ibn Ezra says Gam Korach Bechar Haya. Korach was also a Bechar. So Korach could have had 2 problems. Number one, that the tribe of Levi were now given to serve the Kohanim, and he was a firstborn. Dasan and Aviram's problem is that Reuben should be the firstborn, and it was taken away from Reuben and given to Yosef when it comes to the firstborn rights amongst the tribes. The 250 leaders, what's their problem? Their problem is they were all firstborn. They all had actually brought sacrifice at one point of time, and it was taken away from them.
And isn't that the same as the first one? The
first one, but
because the Bechorim lost it.
But that you're right. It's the same thing, but it's them specifically. They actually lost it. The Bnei Yisrael in general are upset over the fact that the Bechorim amongst them lost it, and these 250 men were men who actually at one point of time did bring sacrifices, and now they couldn't do it anymore. So according to Ibn Ezra, again, except for Korach, according to one explanation, the focus here is the firstborn rights. There's a sefer called Haggas V'Parshas HaTorah that based on this Ibn Ezra makes a very interesting point, and that is that according to Ibn Ezra, this is taking place not after the sin of the Meraglim, it's taking place at the point where the Leviim replaced the firstborn. That's the problem here. And that brings out the Jewish people's being upset over the firstborn. Korach was the firstborn. The Aviram now start getting upset about Reuben losing the firstborn rights, which was a long time before that. The 250 men, their problem by the firstborn rights. It's all happening when the firstborn rights are taken away from those who were the actual firstborn. When that actually happens, that's when all these complaints about losing the firstborn right come about. But if you're going to have problems with losing the firstborn right, then you're really undermining everything. Because who else was not a firstborn who got the firstborn rights? No. Who else was a firstborn in the Chumash?
Oh, Yitzhak.
No. Well, true, but yeah.
Menashe.
The firstborn did not get it.
Menashe was the firstborn of the 2 of them.
Come on.
Yitzhak's brother, no? I mean,
Esau.
Yaakov and Esav. Yaakov and Esav. Yaakov and Esav were a situation where Esav had the firstborn rights, right? At one point, Esav sells it, and then Yaakov disguises himself as Esav, takes the blessings, and Yitzchak says, I get that. That's the way it should have been. That's the way it should have worked out. I mean, that's what Hashem wanted. So here, but that's not the issue. That's not way. But now the problem is, so now if the Jewish people have a problem with when an actual firstborn, right, losing his firstborn right, then why they should have a problem with Yaakov and Esav?
Except they benefited from it because they're all B'nai.
Yeah, but you're not being sincere.
Well, yeah.
That's the point. The point is, if you're ready now, when basically you're being told that the firstborn doesn't have the firstborn right, you're upset about that, and you challenge Moshe for saying that. Okay, well then, and you're even challenging Moshe regarding whether Yaakov actually, took it away from Reuben and gave it to Yosef or not, well then, go further back and start wondering, should Yaakov have these rights instead of Esav?
Why Esau gave them up to him?
That's the first time, not the second part, not when Yaakov came and took the brachas. So basically, the problem here with this rebellion, which again, according to Ben Ezra, starts when a firstborn loses his, seemingly what is his right, when the Jewish people see that the firstborn are losing their right, that they start challenging that. Well, if you challenge that, then you're challenging the whole foundation of who you are. Because then you should be challenging, why is Yaakov the firstborn having the firstborn rights over Esav? Now the Ramban learns differently. The Ramban learns, not like Ibn Ezra, this story of Korach took place after the sin of the spies. And he therefore says like this. Korach's problem was, like Rashi says, he became upset over the fact that Elitzaphan became the prince instead of him. And he also was jealous of Aaron. As we see, he challenged Aaron being the Kohen Gadol. Dasan and Aviram, why did they get involved, says the Ramban? Not because of any firstborn issues. Why? Because Yaakov is the one who took the firstborn right away from Reuben and gave it to Yosef. So they're not chapped. That has nothing to do with Moshe. Rather, but they also joined in to voice their complaints. As they said, La Misenu Ba'midbar, they said to Moshe, when Moshe approached them to try to reconcile with them, they said to Moshe, you took us out of Egypt to kill us in the desert. You didn't bring us to a land flowing with milk and honey. Meaning, Dasan and Abiram's problem was, they're not happy over the fact that they're in the desert. You have not brought us to where we're supposed to be. They're basically saying, we would have been better off in Egypt. Dasan and Abiram, their complaint here is their own personal issue with Moshe. Why did we come out of Egypt to go into this desert? To die here? Us, our generations? What are we here for? Okay. He continues, the Ramban continues. The Jewish people, while they were in the Sinai desert, basically they did not suffer too much. Even by the golden calf, which was a tremendous sin, few people died. Moshe died on their behalf, and Moshe saved them. And therefore they loved Moshe. They knew how Moshe had saved them from destruction. And therefore, if anybody would ever have challenged Moshe at that point of time, the Jewish people would never consider joining up such a rebellion. Okay? But then, the mazel started changing, the luck started changing. They had a couple of problems, as we read in Parshas Ba'aloischa, where people got hurt. Then came the sin of the Meraglim. Moshe, we know, davened for them not to be destroyed, but what happened to them? They end up being stuck in the desert for the next 38 years, all to die. Moshe is not that popular anymore. Moshe has not been delivering like he did previously. Korach saw his chance now to start the rebellion. Now that Moshe's popularity was down, that's when Korach now saw the opportunity to start challenging him, and he figured now people would join him, and he was right, because people did join him. And basically, Dasan and Aviram, they complained to Moshe, you brought us out here in the desert to die. The same way we're going to die, our children are going to die. And therefore, he says, this all happened immediately following the decree that after the sin of the spies, the Jewish people would die in the desert. So now that Korach seizes the opportunity to challenge Moshe over his personal complaint. And then the Ramban says that the 250 people that joined, he says, they were also firstborn. And because they were firstborn, they also now were upset about the kahuna. And therefore, Moshe said to them, okay, that's what you're upset about. You're upset about the fact you lost the privilege of bringing sacrifice that you had before. So the test will now be through an act of sacrifice, which was within your power before. So according to the Ramban learns that the episode of Korach took place after the sin of the spies, because at that point Moshe was vulnerable because in the Jewish people's mind, or their eyes, Moshe was not delivering the way he did previously. Therefore now Korach seized the opportunity. Korach's problem was the fact that he was not made a prince of the tribe of the family of Kahas. He was jealous over Aaron being the Kohen Gadol. Dasan and Abiram, their problem is nothing to do with anything but the firstborn rights of anyone. Just that they're complaining about their situation now in the desert. And the other 250 men, their complaint is the fact that they were firstborn and they lost their rights. Okay, so those are the different approaches that we have here explaining the participants here in the rebellion against Moshe. Let's now, okay, now both the Ramban, both Rashi say that Korach was jealous. And therefore, there's lots of discussion about this very terrible trait of jealousy, of envy, surrounding this parasha. Because again, Korach was a very great man. Korach, in his mind, was searching for greater closeness to Hashem. But our sages point out that what really influenced him, what influenced him, what motivated him here was envy. So I'd like to mention two ideas that relate to this very bad trait of envy. And although they may not exactly relate to Korach and his situation, but again, because of the fact that Korach's downfall came about through envy, it's worth mentioning these two things. The Sefer Chacham Musar points out that very often a person becomes jealous of someone else because they perceive that someone else has it better than they do. They look at someone else, they see what someone else has, they don't have it, and therefore they become jealous because they size of the situation, he has what I don't have, and therefore what the other person's situation is better than mine. Why should he have it? Why does he have it better and I don't have it better? So Chacham Musar says that there's a saying, I'm sure in Yiddish it comes out better, but the saying is, people don't know whose shoes are pressing on them. That means somebody's wearing a beautiful pair of shoes, and you see those beautiful pair of shoes and you're envious. You wish you had those pair of shoes, and you don't realize, right, that those beautiful pair of shoes are causing this person a terrible amount of pain. Meaning what you think is a better situation is really not a better situation. His seemingly better situation is causing him lots of problems. So when you become envious of someone else because of what you perceive the other person's situation is better, you don't know what's really going on. In the Sefer Dibros, the end of the Ten Commandments, the last of the Ten Commandments is Lo Sachma, do not covet. So let me just read that last pasuk and bring out a very interesting thought that Rabbi Frand writes. So the last is Lo Sachma Eishes Re'echa, do not covet your friend's wife, Va'avdei Va'masai, his servant, his maid, V'sharei V'chamoirei, his donkey, his ox, his donkey, V'chol Asher Re'echa, and anything that your friend has. Don't covet these specific things, wife, slave, animal, and anything your friend has. So the Rebbe Zatzal, Rabbi Yoel Teitelbaum, said the following, gave the following insight into these words, V'chol Asher Re'echa, and do not covet all that your friend has. And he said, and this is something that I'm sure we've all heard, that as fortunate as a person may appear, the rule is every person, without exception, in Yiddish we say he has his own pekel. Pekel means he has his own burden. Everybody has their own burden of grief. No matter how good things seem to look to them, every person has their own pekel. Everyone has their own burden. And when the Rebbeinu Shalom whatever the Rebbeinu Shalom gives a person, it's a package deal. The good, the bad, it all goes together. It's all a package deal. Therefore, the Torah says to a person, if you're going to covet somebody for the things that they have that you don't, then beware. If you're asking for his things, you're asking for kol asher l'reyecha. You're asking for everything that your friend has. Because you can't pick and choose. If you want what your friend has, it's a package deal. You've got to take everything that he has, including the tzaras. And another saying is that if people would have a chance to take their burden, and everybody have a chance to put it out on a table. And then they would be told, okay, take whichever one you want. Which one would they take?
Their own.
Their own. And that's because of the fact that the Rebbeinu Shalom, whatever situation Hashem puts us in, it's for our best. And therefore, whatever pekel we have, whatever burden we have, is the burden that's tailored for us. And therefore, you covet, if you're going to go so far to covet, you want what someone else has, beware. it's a package deal. It comes with not just what you think is better, it comes even with the tzaras that that person has. And therefore the Torah warns us, don't covet. And that's one of the things we have to remember in this week's parsha, knowing how Korach, even though we say Korach's desire was a spiritual one, however, again, there was an element of jealousy there. And that was the element of jealousy that brought him down.
What about jealousy to look at somebody who's a great learner?
If you can use jealousy as total motivation, meaning it doesn't hurt, it doesn't bother you he has it, but now that he has it, you want to be motivated to have it too, then there's nothing wrong with that. Now let's turn a few pages.
That's like
Let's
when you talk about Ahavta l'reacha kamocha, it says you should want what he has.
Right.
You don't feel bad if he has something, and use him maybe as an example,
Right.
but don't be angry because he
Right.
has something you seem not to have.
Let's take a look now on page 824. So at the Pasuk Tesvav. So at this point, you've got Moshe has spoken to Korach. Korach, not interested. Moshe approaches Dasan and Aviram. They actually, so to speak, let Moshe have it. They say to Moshe, you're trying to rule over us, you're going to poke at our eyes, you haven't done anything for us. And Pasuk Tesvav reads, Vayichar LaMoshe Ma'od. Literally translated means that Moshe became very angry. Vayomer al Hashem, and he said to Hashem, Al Teifen al Minchasem, do not turn to their mincha, to their gift, to their offering. Lo chamor achad mehem nasasi, I never took one donkey from them. V'leri oisias achad mehem, and I never did that to any one of them. So Rashi on these words, Vayichar LaMoshe, Moshe became angry. So Rashi comments, this is again Rashi in the right column, 3 lines from the top. Vayichar LaMoshe ma'od, nitzdayer ad lama'od. Nitzdayer ad lama'od means he became very distressed. Now what's Rashi coming to teach us here? The words of the pasuk say Moshe became angry, and Rashi tells us he became very distressed. So Rashi is trying to teach us that even though the word angry, Vayichar LaMoshe, typically means Moshe became angry, we should not translate that here as Moshe becoming angry, but rather Moshe becoming very distressed. And the Medrash Tanchuma, Rashi is actually quoting here a Medrash Tanchuma. The Medrash Tanchuma says, what can we compare Moshe's situation to? Basically to a person who wants to have a discussion with someone. He knows that someone is not happy with him. He wants to enter a dialogue with the person, and the person does not want to talk to him. Does not want to talk to him. That person wanted to have a dialogue, and the other person just refuses even to speak to him about it. That person becomes very distressed. That person becomes very distressed that the other party doesn't even have any interest in trying to work things out. And now you're distressed with the situation. Now we're stuck. Now we're stuck in this quarrel, and he's not even interested in trying to fix it up. That was Moshe's situation. Moshe's situation was not anger, because anger in this context could mean Moshe took it personally. Dasan and Aviram let him have it. And when it says Vayichar Moshe, Moshe became angry, that can be translated as Moshe was slighted, he became angry. Rashi says no, Moshe is not slighted. Moshe is distressed. Because he sees on Dasan and Aviram's part, there is no interest on their part even to talk. And therefore he's distressed over now the situation at hand. There's no hope.
Does Vayicha by itself mean angry, or the expression Vayicharav? Vayicha maybe means just got agitated.
Well, maybe that's where the Medrash understands it means more than that.
Yeah.
But Rashi wants to point it out.
Yeah.
He wants to point out that here it doesn't mean anger. Here it means distress. That's an interesting point. Okay. Now, Moshe says to Hashem, Al teifen el minchasam. Do not turn to their mincha, to their gift. So Rashi says, that's the next Rashi, again, the 3rd line. Lefi pshuta, according to the simple pshat, what is this mincha? What is Hashem, when Moshe says to Hashem, don't turn, don't accept their mincha, their offering. What offering? What are offering referring to? The answer is, according to pshat, HaKetores Shem Akrivim Lefanecha Mochar, the Ketores, the incense that they'll be offering tomorrow, because that's what Moshe told them. The test is going to be, you're all going to bring Ketores. Hashem Moshe is saying, Al teifen aleim, don't turn to them, don't accept their Ketores. That's the simple pshat. Now, I think there's a question on the simple pshat. Moshe really thought Hashem was going to accept their Ketores? I mean, the whole point was, this is going to be the means by which to see that Aaron is the true one and the other ones aren't. So why is Moshe concerned that Hashem will accept it? V'hamedrash Omer, Rashi's next explanation based on the Medrash is, I know that all these people have a portion in the daily communal sacrifice that's brought, the carbon tamid, the daily sacrifice. There's a animal sacrifice, there's a mincha, there's a meal offering that goes along with it. I know that all these people involved have a share in it, like everybody else of the Jewish people. And on that, Moshe says, Af chalkam, even their portion in the daily communal sacrifice, lo yekubu lefanach l'ratzain, don't accept it. Tanechenu ha'esh v'lo yitechlenu. That bit that belongs to them should not be consumed.
Who says that? Hashem tells Moshe not
no,
to accept it?
Moshe tells this to Hashem.
Moshe tells Hashem, don't accept their offering.
Correct.
Who, Korah?
Korach, all the people. All the people. But according to Rashi's second pshat, it's not going on the Ketores. It's going on the carbon tamid, the daily communal sacrifice brought for the whole Jewish people. And Moshe turns and he says to Hashem, don't accept their part. Don't even let it get consumed. Don't even let it get consumed. The Orach Chaim, in his commentary, says a very interesting explanation. His explanation is that the Orach Chaim says the meaning behind this, when Moshe says don't turn to their mincha, there's no one, even the biggest Russia, right, has some good deeds that he's done. And we have a rule. The Rebbeinu Shalom pays reward to anybody for any mitzvah that they do. No one gets cheated out. Even the wicked. A God of faith without iniquity. God's trustworthy. He promises to pay up, he's going to pay up. Asher al kain chash Moshe, therefore Moshe was concerned, shetamid lahem eiza mitzvah shebiyadam, that some kind of mitzvah that these people have will protect them. Shaschus toila, because we know that a person's good deed can actually protect them from punishment. Therefore he turned to Hashem and said, don't accept their gift. Pirish, even a good deed, a mitzvah, that already has come before Hashem as a gift, don't pay attention to it. According to the Orach Chaim, Moshe is concerned that these people, and these are great people, will have some kind of a schus, some kind of a merit that will protect them. And Hashem is always trustworthy. He always rewards for a mitzvah. We know that a mitzvah can actually protect the person from punishment. And therefore, Moshe is concerned that when they bring the Ketores actually they'll bring it, and it will seemingly be accepted because they're not going to get punished for it, because they may have some kind of a mitzvah that's going to protect them. And the mincha, the gift, the offering mentioned in the pasuk is not a carbon, it's not a sacrifice. It means a mitzvah. The mitzvah is also a gift to Hashem. So Moshe says to Hashem, don't turn to their gift. Don't pay attention. Don't allow any of their merits to protect them. That's what Moshe was requesting. And therefore, perhaps that's what Rashi means also. When Rashi says, according to the simple pshat, Moshe is saying, Al tevim chasam, don't turn to their gift. What's the gift? Rashi says it means the Ketores. So I asked before, what does Moshe think? Hashem is really going to accept their Ketores? I mean, that means that they're right. The answer would be that Moshe was concerned that perhaps Hashem will accept their Ketores. They will not be punished because they have some kind of mitzvah that's protecting them. How is it going to be proven who's right? They'll have to come out from some other way. But these are the three explanations of when Moshe says, don't turn to their mincha. Rashi says it means, don't turn to the Ketores that Moshe said they are to bring the next day. According to Rashi's second pshat, it means don't accept their portion, their part of the carbon tamid, of the daily communal sacrifice. And the Orach Chaim says it means don't accept any of their mitzvahs to protect them from punishment.